I'm very interactive, okay? Meaning I'm going to engage, and I want y'all to engage back, okay? We're going to make this good hours worth of learning and make it fun. If you have questions, have no problem raising your hand. We'll try to answer the question right then. If I can't, I might say, hold on, I need to finish the thought, okay? My name is Mr. Day. I'm the general manager with the Brazos Valley Groundwater Conservation District, and in the back is Ms. Lopez. She's our office manager with the district, okay? I've come today. Y'all fifth graders, right?
Yes.
How many days of school left?
30.
I can't believe they had to think. We would have already had that now. There you go. Give me 505. Summer's coming, guys, right? I'm here today to try to teach y'all something about water that you may not know, okay? And I know that y'all probably been working on the water cycle, that kind of thing, but we're going to talk about the importance of water to each one of y'all's lives, all right? Now, and I said I'm with the Brazos Valley Groundwater Conservation District. Huge, long names. We're going to cut that up in little bitty pieces, and by the end of the day, you'll know exactly what it is we do and why we do it, okay? I want to start off with a statement and fill in the blank. 3 choices. I know y'all had these before, those multiple choice questions, right? We'll give you 3 choices. When you hear the one you like, raise your hand, okay? High and proud. Don't look at your neighbor and go, well, they're voting for what I'm going to. Just stand up and say, that's the one I like. All right, here's the statement. My water in Bremond comes from, fill in the blank. I haven't given you answers yet. Ready? My water in Bremond comes from water stored in the ground. Water stored in the ground. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hands down. 4 in the back. My water in Bremond comes from the Brazos River. I like that. That's okay. You can stand up. That's fine. Dan.
Oh, yeah, I did that one.
All right, good. Lots of it. Hands down. My water in Bremond comes from the big water storage tank over here in town. Good for you. But it's not right.
Oh,
Here's the answer, guys. Every drop of water that you wash your hands with, that you drink, that you wash your clothes with, you shower with, or you flush down your toilet, every drop comes from water that is stored in the ground.
I told you.
And we call that water, get ready, I'm glad y'all are sitting down, because we call that water, that word, water stored in the ground, is called groundwater. And and water up on top of the surface of the earth. Anybody have any idea what that might be called? Surface. Amen on surface water. There you go. Give me 5 on that. Y'all go, oh, that's just duh. Well, guess what? Adults don't know the difference. I know adults that go out to a lake and look at all of that groundwater over there. It's sitting on top of the ground. It's got to be groundwater. No, groundwater's in the ground. And here's something you're going to have on that STAR test next year, right here. Y'all ready for the STAR test? You're all ready. Well, I'm going to get you one question right, okay? Here's one question you're going to get right. Groundwater is stored in a reservoir in the ground known as an aquifer. A-Q-U-I-F-E-R, and I'll bet you a nickel that it's going to be on that test. And we have 8 aquifers in our district that we manage. My job is to make sure the state mandates me that you're going to have water 50 years from now. We plan on that water being here 50 years from now and 100 years from now. And we're constantly looking at all of our aquifers to see, do we have enough, and are we going to make it out there in 50 and 100 years? And I can assure you, I take my job very seriously, and we will have that water. Now, before we go any further, y'all started on the water cycle, right? Let's talk about that very quickly and how it relates to aquifers. So if I had a stove with a pan of boiling water on it, and it got steam coming off, what is happening to that water?
It's evaporating.
Slip me up 5. Thank you. Evaporation. Steam is simply visible water vapor. So up into the upper atmosphere it goes, and what happens to it? What's it formed?
Condensation.
Not quite yet. It formed something before that. Thank you. A cloud. Cloud is just visible water vapor. Trillions of water molecules, okay? As those water molecules begin to cool down, They're getting colder and colder. And they go from area this size and they just keep getting into a smaller and smaller area. What do we call that?
Condensation.
There you go, condensation. To condense means to take something in a large area and that same amount and make it into a smaller area, to compact it or condense it, okay? Now, that forms, all those water molecules form a droplet of water, and it falls from the sky in the form of precipitation. 4 kinds of precipitation, guys. Rain, sleet, snow, and hail. What do we get the most of here?
Rain.
Rains here. We don't get much sleet, snow, and hail. What do they get in the Antarctic?
Snow.
Snow. When I talk about precipitation today, we're going to talk about rainfall, okay? Now, while we're talking about that, I don't have a stove that is heating up a pan of water and making the water cycle work. What drives the water cycle? Back on the back.
Air.
What heats up and makes the water cycle work?
Oh, I got it.
Tell me.
The sun.
The sun.
Oh.
Solar energy, we have to have the sun. That's the driver of everything, okay?
The main energy.
Our biggest body of water in our area is the Gulf of Mexico. And that is what drives our water cycle, okay? All right, let's talk about rain. And we're going to play like this is Bremond. We're going to let it rain on Bremond. So, y'all have a park in town? Maybe? So we're going to play like this is the park over here. It's got some grass and trees and that kind of thing. Got a little pond or a lake. Here's the Brazos River over here. Somebody tell me, when water hits the face of the earth, what is something that can happen to that water?
It can like go down or grow stuff.
Overflow.
Yes, after it soaks into the ground, and we have a term for that soaking in, and it's known as to infiltrate. I-N-F-I-L-T-R-A-T-E. To infiltrate just simply means to move into. An army would infiltrate from one country into another, okay? Simply means to move into. So water can infiltrate. What happens when the water hits, I'll answer in just a minute, okay? What happens to water when it hits the concrete and the paper? Can it infiltrate?
No. Yes, sometimes. With the mixed grass.
No. So that water is going to do what we call as runoff. If it rains too much, that's exactly, it can't absorb it. So we have water, that water we call runoff or storm water. If you live in town and you have these curbs and the water goes down to the curb when it rains real hard, and down the curb it goes to a big hole in the curb called a storm drain. And that water ends up going to the Navasota River all the way to the Brazos, down to the Gulf of Mexico. Now, sometimes we build a dam on one of these creeks. And that water, it rains too much, and water runs off, and it makes the lake, fills the lakes up, and that is, have y'all learned the word of to accumulate?
Nope.
To collect. An accumulation is just a collection of water droplets, okay? A lake, a pond, a puddle, okay? An accumulation.
Oh.
Good. So we have those 3 things going on. Now, also, you've got the whole evaporation, all that's going on. Now, we'll turn this off. And then let's talk about water, guys. Here's one of the facts, okay? Well, before we get into that, any of y'all get over to Bryan College Station much? Don't get into Bryan College. Maybe Waco. Any of y'all like Whataburger? Okay. Well, guys, I can tell you, I love Whataburger, and so does Ms. Lopez. And I'll tell you, when I go to Whataburger, I get myself a double meat and cheese, and I like to put bacon and jalapenos on it. And I get the big drink, the big cup, and I fill it up with sweet tea. About halfway through my burger, because those jalapenos are kind of hot, I'm going to be out of drink. What does Whataburger let me do?
Refill.
Say it. You get to refill for nothing, thank you, Whataburger. Put this in your brain. The only way, one way, you can refill an aquifer, one, it has to rain. Period. No other way to do it. It has to rain. And y'all already have iPhones, Game Boys, things that are electrical. Well, you already have an iPhone. And you probably already have the texting thing down with 2 fingers. I bet you. And I bet by the end of the day, somebody's gonna have a red battery on their phone or on that Game Boy. What happens when you get the little red battery? What do you have to do to it?
Charge it.
You have to charge it. You gotta plug it in and get some electricity back into that bad boy so you can go at it tomorrow. And that's called to recharge your phone. That's exactly what we call a refilling of an aquifer, is to recharge, okay? It has to rain to recharge an aquifer. Another fact that I want to tell you, water is always looking, give me just a second. Water is always looking to move downhill by gravity. It's going to move downhill. The only way you can make water move uphill is to put some kind of pressure on it. Pump it. You got to pressurize it, okay? All of your river systems start at high elevations and go down and to sea level, whether it's the Gulf of Mexico or whether it's Atlantic or Pacific or anywhere in the world, okay? What was your question?
So we need water for everything in our home?
Absolutely. There's water involved in every single thing that you do in life. There's some element of water involved. Bless you. There's some element of water involved in it. Okay. So let's talk about what an aquifer is, okay? We have 8 aquifers in our district. So we know what Brazos Valley groundwater, you know what groundwater is now, right? Water in the ground that we manage. The district is 2 counties, Brazos and Robertson. Brazos is A&M, Bryan College Station. You have them sitting right in this area right here. Then you got in Robertson, you got Hearn and Mumford, you got Franklin and Calvert, and of course you got Bremond right up here. And under the ground in our 2 counties, 8 aquifers, 7 that are called confined and 1 unconfined, and we'll talk a lot more about that in a minute. These used to not, each one of these right here is an aquifer. Here's your aquifer. It's the Hooper aquifer. It's the only water you have available to you in this area. I want to tell you how aquifers formed. All of these that are going off to the earth like this, they're going off into the earth at a rate of, if I go 1 mile this way on land surface, it goes down in the ground 100 feet. So by the time I leave Bremond and I drive 30 miles to the county line, to the Brazos County line, these aquifers have gone down 3,000 feet into the ground. They used to not be like that. They all used to lay just like this right here. And it used to be clay, sand, rock, sand, shale. All these geologic formations sitting one on top of the other. And layers, exactly right, layers, thank you. And those layers were not filled with water at that point. Then we had what's called geologic uplift. The earth, y'all learned the earth moves, right?
Yes.
Always in motion. We had geologic uplift. And up it came, and it exposed each of these sand zones, which are our aquifers. It exposed it and became the face of the earth. If you go right outside of Bremond, going back towards Highway 6 from the light, well, just right outside this building, go right down there. Go down there about a mile, get out, and go out into those fields. It's sand. It's sand. That sand is Hooper Aquifer Recharge Zone. When it rains out there, it recharges or refills your Hooper Aquifer. Over here, here's Bryan College Station, sitting on top of the Yawa Aquifer. So when it rains on Bryan College Station, some of that water infiltrates by gravity, moves down past the plants. Some of the plants are trying to take some of that water, right? Moves on down past that, escapes the plants, recharges the Yawa. If it rains in Bryan College Station, does it recharge your Hooper Aquifer?
No.
It has to rain here in order for it to recharge your aquifer, okay? Bryan College Station, Hearn, Franklin, Calvert, they don't get their water from the Hooper. They all get theirs from the Simsboro, okay? Your water comes out of the ground quite cool. The city does not have to do much to your water other than to kill the bacteria in it. They have to chlorinate it. They don't do much filtration to it, and they send it. Somebody said, I believe you said, it comes from big water storage tanks. We pump the water out of the ground. They chlorinate it, kill the bacteria, do a little filtration, and then they send it to the big water storage tanks, and then it's ready to come to your house, okay? One thing I didn't tell the last group, some of y'all may not know this, you only have one water line coming to your house. You don't have a hot water and a cold water coming to your house. You have a cold water line. And when it comes into your house, it comes, what you're getting out of your tap, most of it is cold water.
A hot water
But you got a hot water heater. It goes into the hot water heater, so when you turn on the hot water faucet, it comes out of that hot water heater, okay?
That's why it's important to keep that a little bit of hot water when it's like
Yes.
snowing or something, because it'll freeze
Oh,
up.
absolutely, I would have to agree with that. All right, so we got that. Now, let's talk about, have any of you guys ever been on the bottom of what I would call a good old-fashioned dog pile? Meaning I've been tackled, and there's about 5 people that are on top of me, mashing me into the ground. How did it feel to be the guy on the bottom?
It felt like something, like a whole bunch of people.
But did it feel like you couldn't breathe very well? That's because all the weight of the people on top of you the pressure was mashing you down, okay? How did it feel to be the guy on the top of the pile?
Awesome.
Oh, no.
Happy pappy, no pressure whatsoever, right? Guys, it's the same way with an aquifer. I'm going to say that over and over again. So, it rains in Bremond. It rains right out here on your recharge zone. Water begins to infiltrate through the sand. Here at the top, right here, top of the dog pile. No pressure whatsoever. Here's the happy pappy right here. You can't get much water right here. You have to have pressure in order to get volume. If you have a water well right up here just outside of Bremond, you can get a little water, but not a whole lot of water. The deeper the water goes, the higher the pressure, the higher the temperature, the higher the volume, and the more minerals there are in the water. Your water wells are just about right here. They end up being about 300 to 350 feet deep, and don't make tremendous amounts of water, but enough for Bremond. Y'all only have one source. That's it. You got the Hooper Aquifer, okay? You go down here to where the power plant is. Y'all know where the power plant is out down here?
Yes.
It sits on top of the Simsboro Aquifer. When it rains there, it does not fill your aquifer. It does not recharge. It recharges the Simsboro. The Bryan College Station wells we were talking about, they're right here at the county line, 30 miles south. Those wells are 3,000 feet deep. They come out of the ground, the water comes out of the ground, high volumes of water, 3,300 gallons per minute, which simply means 600 of these buckets every minute. Tremendous amount of water. It comes out of the water, out of the ground, at between 114 and 135 degrees. I'm going to make that relevant to you. Go home tonight, turn on your hot water, let it just run on hot. When it starts looking like it's steaming a little bit, put your hand under that. Between 125 and 130 degrees. They have to cool water that comes out of the ground before they ever send it down the pipes. And the way they do that, they take that water, it's coming down the pipe, they put it under high pressure, and they send it through what we call a nozzle, which simply makes a large water droplet, and it turns it into a very fine mist, a very small droplet. And it allows the heat, the steam, to escape back into the water cycle, and then that other water is sitting and rapidly cooling, and it condenses and it falls. They put it into the pipe and they send it to the big water storage tanks for y'all to use, for them to use. Okay. Anybody got any questions on any of that?
So,
When
the
we
farther south you go, the deeper your well's going to be?
say it again.
The farther south you go, the deeper your well's
Absolutely, exactly right. All of our aquifers are dipping or going down towards the south and east, all moving towards the Gulf Coast, every one of them, all going down at that angle that I'm telling you about. Yeah, quick question.
The accumulation, you said that when it adds up only in the form of a water droplet, why do they say it in snow?
Why is that what?
Why do they say it in snow? Because like when the snow drops to the ground and
Yes.
it forms on the ground,
Yes.
they call that accumulation.
They do, it accumulates because you have flakes that are one flake, another flake, another flake, they are accumulating. Absolutely, any accumulation is simply a gathering up of, okay? So that's exactly why. You've hit your nail on the head, yes.
Isn't it true, like when it snows and the highway is like all frozen and stuff, like the bridges, they put sand down there to cover it, salt,
To melt it.
because when the snow comes down, it melts it.
Exactly, it'll melt it, yeah, keep it
Let's
from.
focus on the water
So
cycle.
now, on my way back to work, my job's over at Hearn, my office is, okay? When we're going back to Hearn, and I happen to pick up a nail in the tire, and I pull over to the side and I pull the nail out of the tire, what do you think's going to happen to the air in the tire?
It's gonna leak out like
Coming right out of that hole, isn't it? Because the air pressure inside the tire is higher than the air pressure on the outside of the tire. Now, I'm going to teach you at least a 7th grade thing here, okay, guys? In nature is always looking to balance itself, okay? It wants balance. High pressure always seeks low pressure. It's like, well, there's nothing over here, and I've got a lot over here, and I'm going to go fill that so that we can become equal. Once the air goes out of the tire, the pressures, high pressure and low pressure, have become the same. They've equalized. If I had a balloon and I put a little bitty pinhole in it and I blow it up real big, what's going to happen to the air inside of the balloon? Coming out of that hole until the point that it deflates. Because high pressure's higher on the inside than on the outside. Once it deflates, what's happened to the pressures? They've equalized. They become the same, and it's important, and I'll show you why that's important to what we do here in just a minute, okay? I'm going to start off here. Before I put any dye, we're going to talk about what a water well is. Now, each one of these is going to symbolize a water well. All in the world, a water well is a hole that's been dug in the ground to produce water for some good purpose. That's all it is. And here is how we, back up until about 1900, this is a water well just outside Hearn. It's about hand dug, about 4 feet wide, about 40 feet deep. Okay? As you notice, it's right at land surface. There is nothing to keep water or anything else from going right down from land surface. Here's a water well. It's just outside of Bremond, probably 3 miles out here. You notice it's got concrete up around it. Both of these wells are about 40 feet deep, 4 feet in diameter. Can you imagine being the person that had to dig that hole? The way you got the water out of these wells was with a bucket and a rope. That's how you got it out. These days we have a machine. Drills a hole. We don't have to use a bucket and a rope anymore. We use a electric pump, pumps the water to the top of the ground. Our lives are so much easier now than they were back in those days. You'll never quite understand. Question?
At my grandma's house, she has one of them with a bucket and a rope.
There you go. I hope is it covered, nice and covered? Good. It needs to stay covered. Okay, so I'm going to take this blue dye and I'm going to mark the tops of these 2 wells right here. So there's some blue dye, there's some right there. I'm going to take this rubber band and I'm going to bring it up to the level of the dye. Now, can y'all all see the level of the lake right here? Okay, I'm going to hold that right at the level of the lake. Everything, again, at least a 5th grade thing, or 6th, well, y'all may not have run it this year, but it may be a 7th grade. Hang on just a second. Everything below that blue rubber band is completely filled with water. You couldn't put another drop of water in there if you tried. And the term we use for that is to be totally saturated. S-A-T-U-R-A-T-E-D. Saturated, meaning completely filled. If I were to take a sponge and put it into a bucket of water and squeeze it and let it fill up with water, when I come out, it's dripping. Why?
Completely filled.
It is completely filled. It is totally saturated. It can't take another drop of water. Same way from that level down. Now, y'all look like a bunch of smart guys. Do y'all remember back 3 summers ago, summer of 2011, how hot and how dry it was? It was a pretty tough summer, wasn't it? All right, let's go back to the water side. As the temperature goes up, does evaporation rate go up or down?
Yeah. Oh.
Up.
The sun's up.
Evaporation always follows temperature, okay? That summer, 100-degree days nearly every single day, day in and day out. Can we all agree that evaporation rates were very high?
Yes.
All right, here's that the mid-presentation test. You don't have to hold your hands up, you can just say it, okay?
Okay.
What's the only way you can recharge an aquifer?
Rain.
It has to rain. In 2010, it quit raining. Very little rain. And in 2011, we had the lowest recorded rainfall ever in our district and in the state of Texas. Little or no rain, does that equates to, would we agree, little or no recharge? Little or no rain, little or no recharge. Now, I don't know any of you guys, I don't know one of you, but I can tell you something was happening in the summer of 2011. At your house, you were still flushing your toilet, you were still taking showers, you were washing your clothes, and a lot of your parents were probably watering the lawns more than they ever had because it was so hot and they didn't want those lawns to die. We were using at least as much water as we've always used, if not more. We had high evaporation and we had little or no recharge. What do you think was happening to our levels of our aquifers? Up or down?
Down.
They were slowly going down. Now, I want to stress slowly. All of our 7 confined aquifers, including your Hooper, they are large volumes of water, trillions of gallons of water. And they don't go up fast and they don't go down fast. Here is the example. 5-gallon bucket, 1,000-gallon tank. I start taking 1 cup of water out of them at the same time. Which one goes down more rapidly? 5-gallon, low volume. I'm going to take and I'm going to start filling them back up, 1 cup at a time. Which one comes up more rapidly, 5 or 1,000?
5.
The low volume, exactly right. And it's just exactly the same way with our aquifers. Large volume aquifers are not affected that much by pumping, and they don't come up rapidly on recharge. They go up and down very slowly. All right, let's take now. You'll notice I turned the pump off. I turned the rain off. Now these water wells have dropped right here. See, they're down here now. If I owned water well number 3, or I owned water well number 4, could I pump any water?
No.
There's no water there to pump because that saturated zone we talked about, it's now down below, right from here now. It's not up here anymore. There's no water above. What I can tell you is that during a drought, during long periods of little or no rainfall, which we've been in a serious drought for the last 3 years, and are getting ready to, anyway, it's been happening since about 1996. Our weather patterns changed in 1996. And you hear a thing about climate change, we've had climate change. How it's happened, I think it's just part of nature. I think it goes in big cycles. I don't know that, but that's what I think. 1996, we started getting less rainfall. We started getting more wind and higher temperatures. And during that, I guess that's what, 18 years that we've been going along? We've only had 4 years out of that 18 that we would consider what it used to be normal prior to 1996. This year, we're already about 8 inches behind on our normal rainfall, but our average rainfall will be getting ready for possibly another tough summer. So, what I'm saying here, in those drought times, and a drought doesn't happen in a week, it doesn't happen in a month. It happens over a very long period of time. We can lower our aquifers to the point where you can't pump any water. We had wells right outside of Bremond in the Hooper that last summer, it lowered where they were having to drill new water wells. got down low enough that that was happening. What happens though, like last fall, it started, we had some good rains last fall. What do you think was happening to the levels of our aquifers? Were they going up or down?
Up.
Started up very slowly. Okay, let's talk about 3 kinds of aquifers. We have 2 in this area. We'll talk about the 3rd. 1, an unconfined aquifer. How many of y'all have been out along down by the Brazos River where we grow all the corn and cotton and milo and soybeans? That sits on top of what we call the Brazos River alluvium aquifer. It's about 80 feet deep total. The unconfined, meaning on the top, nothing restricts the water from just going straight into the aquifer. No restrictions. On the bottom, we do have a restriction. So the first 40 feet of our unconfined is this very fine sand. And I'm going to pass it around. I want you to feel this. And I want you to realize that every single small grain that's right there on my finger that you feel is a particle, okay? A very small particle. When you drill through this, the water has to infiltrate through 40 feet of this sand. And at about 50 feet, you run into this right here. It's gravel, and you go, well, everybody's seen gravel. That's where the water's stored, okay? That's where we pump the water from the gravel. But the reason I pass that around, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a particle. And you're going to see that that particle size is 10,000 times the size of this particle. And that plays a big role in our aquifers. We'll talk about that more in a minute. At the base, as I said, of our unconfined is a clay barrier. We call it an aquitard all in the world. It keeps the water from going straight down. I said water's always going to move down, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
When it hits this rock or this clay right here, and there's a tilt to it, like right here, down it goes. It's going to follow it down. If this is level, like our aquifers is, this is level, it's like a big bathtub. When it rains, it fills up. When we pump, it goes down. All right, below that is your Hooper aquifer. This is a confined aquifer. Here's the way I remember confined. If they were to haul me off to jail, I hope that doesn't happen. But if they did, and they put me in a cell, and they slam the door, and they lock it, and they walk away with the key, and I cannot get out, I'm confined. If I'm walking down this hall, you're walking down this hall, and every door is closed, you are confined by the walls of that hall. Here is confined aquifer, rock or clay, on top and bottom, confining this sand saturated with water. I want you to feel that. I want you to realize the size of this particle compared to this first sand right here. And realize it is a much larger particle, okay? A confined aquifer, here's the way you remember it, it's a water sandwich. Top and bottom. That's rock or clay, that's your 2 pieces of bread, and in the middle is the meat. That's that sand right there, saturated or filled with water. Have any of y'all, now we're going to talk about this 3rd one. Have any of y'all been to the caves over around San Antonio in the hill country, San Marcos?
Yes.
Okay. When you walked down into those caverns, you walked into the upper portion of what we call the Edwards Aquifer. Those used to be portals for water. Water used to fill in through those holes and recharge the Edwards Aquifer. It is a fractured bedrock. Bedrock, I bet y'all have already learned about bedrock. Fractured means cracked. It's cracked long ago and water moves through those cracks. Water can move through a fractured bedrock aquifer literally miles in a day. In your aquifer, water moves about that much in a day. Okay? Big, big difference. You'll see that here in just a minute. Now I'm going to take some dye. And by the way, when I put dye in, it is fully acceptable and expected to hear such noises as ooh or ah. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to put some dye into the fractured bedrock, and I want you to watch where the blue dye goes, and then we're going to talk about why it went where it went. We've talked about why, and I want you to, I think you'll be able to tell me. So let's make sure that this is over here. I'm going to put some blue dye in. Here it goes. There you go. All right, that's good. So the blue dye is moving across the model to the left,
Awesome.
through the cracks.
That's pretty cool.
Now, once it gets to that left side over there, is it going anywhere except the cracks?
Oh, we didn't run this.
It was barely even going through the other cracks because it's less. They're getting
Why is the water well number 9 blue? Yeah. Why?
because the pressure goes.
Thank you so much. Give me up, knuckle me up. Thank you. Pressure. It's the hole in the tire. It's the hole in the balloon. When the water found a hole, in this case, it's a drilled hole, it's a water well, up the water column it went. Now, here's what I want to tell you. Remember we talked about that air pressure thing equalizing? Air pressures didn't equalize here. High and low pressure didn't equalize until they got all the way to land surface. We call this an artesian flowing well. Water comes out of the ground, runs out on the ground, no pump necessary. When we find a flowing well like that in any of our aquifers, we know the aquifer in that area is in excellent shape. High pressures and large volumes of water. So, y'all are 5th graders,
Yeah, like to be 6th grade.
right? Gonna be 6th graders in like, what, 5 days?
Yes.
Okay. So you're gonna be able to get this. So water's flowing out on top of the ground here. Air pressure's equalized at land surface. Why are these water wells, why is the water level over here not at land surface?
Because
Because it's
Why?
high pressure.
Tell me.
Does that have to do that this one is lower land than that one?
Ask that again?
Does that have to do with this one being on lower land?
Lower level does have some to do with it, but what else? Tell me. The pressure, they equalized below land surface, okay? Now, here's the deal. We have 169 water wells that one man in our office, not here today, he measures those 169 wells every month.
whoa.
And he measures from land surface to what we call the static water level. And he does that, and we look at the measurement this month compared to the measurement last month, compared to 3 months ago, compared to a year ago, or 5 years ago. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure that the aquifer is acting like it should. In the summertime, we expect the water levels, our static water levels, to go down in these water wells because we're using a lot of water. It's just pressure is all it is. But in the fall, when we quit pumping, we expect these water levels to start coming back up. And then in the winter, when we're not using much at all, and that's when we're getting most of our rain, we expect them to be at our highest level. Now, I said, guys, I've got to plan for you to have water 50 years from now, okay? My job. If we start seeing something that's just not quite right, when we're measuring these water wells and things are not acting like they're supposed to, we may have to change the way we manage. And we have the authority at the district that if we're pumping too much water and we need to change, we can say, City of Bremond, anybody in the Hooper aquifer, you're using too much water too quickly, we're gonna cut back and you can only pump so much water in order that we can stay on our 50-year goal. Okay, that hasn't happened and we don't expect it to happen, but we have that ability to do that. All right, now I'm going to put some red dye into the unconfined aquifer, and I'm going to put some green into the confined. And I want you to compare the rate at which it moves through the aquifer. There's the red. Oh, that's good. Somebody remembered. I'm glad. Good. And here's the green. let's watch as it moves through to the left. Which one is moving more rapidly, the red or the green?
Green.
Somebody tell me why.
I know because it's awesome.
I want to hear from you.
Because it's lower, so the
No, right there.
Because maybe there's like gravel there and it has things that open up.
You're so close. Just tell me what it is, though. That was close. You're all around it. Tell me.
It's because it's so all the cracks and stuff that it's supposed to go through.
It's the particle size, guys.
Yeah.
The larger the particle, the more space there is between the particles. Those are known as pores. And the more porous it is, the less resistance for the water to move through. Okay, does that make sense to you? Okay. Now, I'm going to pump water well number 6. Right here. It is drilled and goes through this rock. What color dye am I going to pump? Green or red?
Green.
Anybody for red?
Red. Yeah, I'm not vote red.
You're going to go for red. Okay. Well, you should have stayed with green.
Hey.
Now, why am I pumping green and not red?
Because green is the one that's moving more quickly, and it's the one where the most is.
No, why? Tell me.
Because it's the one that, there's more of it it's below
The rock.
the rock.
The rock divides those two aquifers. And the only water available to my pump is water that is below the rock. It's no different than the Atlantic and the Pacific, with the United States separating those two bodies. It's the same way here. And that rock or clay separates the two. So if I were to turn around and now I'm going to pump water well number 5, which is above the rock, what color would it be?
Red.
It'll be red.
Brown.
Okay. Everybody get that? Everybody understand, right? Okay. I'm going to give.
Dude, that was cool.
We need more
I'm
red.
sorry. What was your like?
Interesting.
Do what?
Interesting.
Yes. I'm gonna give Ms. Andreski water well number 4. I feel very charitable. All right. I'm gonna pump my water well number 5. I want you to watch what happens to the level in Ms. Andreski's well and the static level of water well number 3. Let's see what happens when I pump. You ready? Everybody see? And I'm pumping mine. What's happening to the water level?
It's gone.
It went down, didn't it? Okay, now let's do it again. Which one goes down more, Ms. Andreski's or number 3?
Number 3.
Ms. Andreski?
I know why.
Why?
I'm so smart.
Because it's a short.
Why?
So smart.
Because the number 1 and number 4 is smaller.
No.
I got it.
What?
So they have less pressure?
No.
So at a higher level?
No.
What's density?
It's
No.
closer.
Tell me. You're the guy. No, you're not. It's closer. The closer a water well is to mine, the more effect that I have on that well when I pump. And it looks just like this, guys. We call it a cone of depression. So here we are. Here is the water level, the little blue dotted line. I turn my pump on. There is a small quantity of water, small volume of water right around my pump. When I turn it on, that water moves quickly to my water well, to my pump. Just so happens Ms. Andreski's well is right here next to mine, okay? That water begins to move very rapidly. Water well number 3 is way out here in this ocean of water. It starts to move just barely. Okay, now, remember I used the word saturated a while ago? Ms. Andreski's sand, remember, this area down here is saturated with water. She now has green water. Her water is now dyed green. Let's see what happens when I pump my well. Let's watch that green dye. Okay, it's going down. Now let's watch. I'm going to continue to pump. Where is Ms. Andreski's water?
Go to yours.
I pump every drop of her water. You see this area right here? In the cone, I literally took the water from her sand, and she cannot pump her well Well, I pump mine because there's no water in the pump, cone of depression. Now, any of y'all like Dairy Queen shakes?
Yes.
Love them. The next time you go to Dairy Queen, guys, I want you to do the following. Get yourself a shake, and I want you to play like the shake is your aquifer. I want you to take the lid off, and I want you to put in your water well. Straw. I want you to pump your water well. I want you to drink it. What's going to happen to the top
It's
of the
gonna go
well?
down.
Almost. Goes down like this right here.
Oh.
Cone of depression, okay? Same thing. And at the district, one of the things we do, if you came in for a water well, we would go, where is your place? What aquifer do you want? We would then find all the water wells around her in that aquifer. We would place her water well in a place that it would not affect anybody else's, so that those cones of depression don't overlap. Everybody can pump at the same time and all will be good. Now let me finish this thought. Here's the trick question of the day. Turn on, I quit pumping my aquifer, I quit drinking the shake. What happens to the top of the shake? Just show me what happens. Did I just recharge the aquifer?
Yes.
No, because it's low
Just put more
level.
in.
Why didn't it recharge?
Because it's not.
It didn't rain.
Yes.
I just turned the pump off. And when I turn the pump off, we call that recovery. The pressure, remember, all around here, there's water. And as soon as I turn it off, the pressure, that water comes back and fills into all those pores. Now Ms. Andreski can pump, as long as I don't pump. Okay. Next. Yes, quick question right here.
All the water on the bottom of there is gone. Because all the wells got it. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's just flowing through. The model makes it flow through. Okay. Y'all know the word pollution, the word contamination, putting things into the environment that we should not put, right?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you about a very common pollutant in the city of College Station, city of Bryan, city of Dallas. It doesn't matter where they are. People will go down and say, you know what, I'm going to fertilize my yard and I'm going to kill the weeds. That's not a bad thing. That's all good, okay? But here they'll go to Lowe's. And they go in and they go to the garden center and say, okay, I'm going to get my bag of fertilizer, I'm going to read, I'm going to do a little fourth grade calculation that says, you know what, 100 pound fertilizer will do exactly my yard the way it's supposed to be. And then they go in their brain, if 100 pounds is good, 200 pounds is better. Does that sound right?
No, because
The more the better. That's exactly the way they think. Now, here we go. They look at the bottle of weed killer, herbicide, and it says, fourth grade calculation, 1 quart will kill every weed in my yard just perfectly. If 1 quart is good, a gallon has to be better. Oh no, exactly right. That is what we call stinking thinking, guys. And here's why. Remember we used the word accumulation? So if we put down 1 gallon of weed killer, and the weeds pick up 1 quart, how much is left in the ground? 3 quarts. And that's called, we've accumulated. Now it rains. Now if we continue to water our yard, where does the herbicide go? Does it just stay there?
no, it goes to the ocean or lake.
Oh, it doesn't go to the ocean. Where else does it go? It's already in the ground. Exactly. It infiltrates, it percolates, and it ends up in our aquifers. Our aquifers are natural filters. They will filter out some bacteria, they will filter out some solids. One thing that they will not filter out is dissolved solutions like herbicides. Okay? We've got to be very careful about the things that we put. Read the labels and do it as the label said. Don't have that mindset of more is better. Okay? Lots of people my age have that. Now, there are people, believe it or not, that will take and they'll change the oil in their truck. And that's a good thing. But they don't take it to the quick center, they just do it at the house. And instead of disposing of the oil properly, they will, and they can't pour it on the ground because it's against the law, And the reason it's against the law is because now it's on the ground and it rains, and what happens to the oil?
Goes in the aquifer.
It does the same, it just migrates itself down. There are people that will take, and down the hole it goes. They will take labeled products that are liquids that they don't know what they are anymore. Down the hole they'll go. Guys, there's no infiltration or percolation going on there. It's straight down to the aquifer. You've got water right there. You're looking at water. We have to use our brains about this stuff because it's very difficult to clean rock. Very, very, very difficult.
What about the ash?
I'll show you what happens. Let's put a little too much fertilizer. Okay? We're going to over fertilize. And people don't do it on purpose. They just have this more is better. So if you have thousands of people in College Station over fertilizing, and then it comes in a big rain, what has happened to the lake? The lake has turned red. That's fertilizer. Here's what happens. We over fertilize. It comes with a big rain, or we water too much. Some of that washes off. Gets out in the street, down the curb, it ends up in the lake. Okay? Have y'all heard what algae? Have you ever heard the word algae before?
Yeah.
They live in water. They love fertilizer. They love what's called phosphorus. And it's kind of like a Chinese buffet would be to me. You know, and they're just getting that phosphorus, and they're growing and multiplying. And I know y'all have seen some of these ponds around Bremond that are just green. That's algae. Guess what else algae rob from the water? Oxygen. What do fish have to have to live?
Oxygen and water.
What do you think happens to the fish when those ponds turn green? They die. We call that a fish kill. Those are consequences of doing these types of things, and we got to be very careful about it. All right, let's talk about the last word. Y'all know what the Brazos Valley District is, Brazos and Robertson. You know what groundwater is, right? Water stored in the ground, in an aquifer. The last word's conservation. Conserve simply means I'm going to keep some back to use to have for another day. Okay? Not use it all now. Have some for another time. Let me finish up and I'll ask you your first question. Okay? So, if I have a large vat of water here, 1,000 gallons, and I start pumping out 1 gallon over here, okay? At the same time, I'm recharging the tank with a half a gallon. So 1 out, half in. What's going to happen to the level of the water in the tank? It's going to go down. What if I just continually do it day in and day out? What's eventually going to happen to the water in the tank? It'll eventually go away. Now here, I'm going to tell you this as a fact. It is my job and it is in my wheelhouse. Every single one of our 7 confined aquifers, we use more water than we recharge. Every single one of those is slowly declining, and we manage that slow decline. We want to make sure it's out there 50 years from now and 100 years from now. If I were to give each one of you, but if I were to give this young lady right here a 5-gallon container of water, say here is your water for the day. You do with it whatever you want to. I don't care. It's yours. But you don't get any more water. Not until tomorrow. I'm going to bet you that she's going to drink some of it. I bet you she will probably wash her hands with some of it. She's going to drink some of it. And ladies, I bet any of you are going to try and wash your hair with it. But here's something else I do know for a fact. There's not any one of you in here that will take that water and pour it out on the ground. Or pour it down a sink. You're not going to waste it because this is all the water I have. I've got to make this last. I have to cherish what I have and make it last. Wise decisions. Guys, here's our problem in this area. We have people that go, we have an ocean of water. We're never going to run out of water, ever. Well, no, we're not going to in their lifetime. We won't in my lifetime. We're not going to in your lifetime. But here's the deal. Our water, we can't see it. You can't go hug it. You can't feel it. You can't, you don't see it till it comes out of the tap. That's the first time you see it. If I lived in Austin, Texas, and I depended on Lake Travis for my water supply, I can drive out there and I can look and go, wow, there's my drinking water. well, it's kind of low, but we're okay right now. And then you can drive out there 6 months from now and go, oh my gosh, it's 10 feet lower. I'm gonna have to start using less water because I'm running out of water. We don't have that luxury, guys. We don't see it. So we have to be we gotta use our brains and use the water we need. Now here's confession time, okay? I want everybody just be honest, straight up honest, okay? How many of y'all brush your teeth this morning? Good for you. Your parents are so proud of you, and okay, hands down. Now, how many of you did something similar to this? Turn the water on and wet your toothbrush. Put a little bit of toothpaste on there. Maybe wet it again. Started brushing your teeth, and you left the water running.
Oh, no, I did.
Thank you for admitting it. And let me tell you a little secret. I did that for 57 years. You know how much water I wasted in 57 years?
Like
Over 300,000 gallons of water that I let go down the sink for no good reason except I was too lazy to reach up and turn the water faucet off. Guys, we all waste water. Some way, shape, form, or fashion, we waste water. It may be when you're washing your hands. You may be flushing the toilet 2 or 3 times when you only need to do it once. You may have leaks at your house. Y'all may be over-watering your yard. We all have ways that we can save water. We can conserve water because you do not want to be the ones. In 50 years, I'm dead and gone. But I've made sure you have water. I promise you. Y'all are going to be the ones in charge. In Bremond and wherever you're living, you're going to be the ones in charge. And you're going to have kids, you're going to have grandkids, and you're going to have great-grandkids. And you do not want to be grandpa that when grandson or granddaughter comes up and says, why in the world were y'all wasting so much water back in 2014? Okay? I'm telling you, if you'll start now making wise choices, your family today is going to notice one, and your kids and your grandkids, from this point forward, they will all follow your example. They'll do what you do, okay? It's up to y'all. It's hard to change adults to do things wisely. Believe me, it's hard. You guys, it's a time when y'all can make it. Y'all will make the difference, okay? Now, I will answer a couple of questions. Y'all still got a little time for questions, don't you? Anybody got questions? Y'all been asking them all along. That's fine. More questions? I know y'all have questions. Yes, a question.
After you waste water, where does it go?
Okay. Good question. And it's not so much waste. When you have water, okay, and it goes down the sink, right? That goes into, if you live in town, that's called effluent, okay? Wastewater. It goes to a wastewater treatment plant. They treat it back to drinking standards, and then here in Bremond, they don't reuse it. They send it down the Navasota River, okay? In College Station, they'll take that treated effluent, and some of that water, they'll go back and they'll irrigate like their parks with it, okay? They're getting ready to, in the next 5 to 10 years, they'll start taking that treated effluent and they'll inject it back into an aquifer and will artificially recharge an aquifer for them to be able to take it back out in the summertime. They'll store it and then they'll take it out in the summertime when we have our highest usage.
It's like a water cycle.
Well, no, that's not the water cycle at all. That is a man-made thing. Yeah. Now, here's something else. And y'all, if you're going to live in Bremond, this is not something that will happen in life, okay? At some point, Wichita Falls. Y'all know Wichita? Y'all have heard of Wichita Falls?
Yeah.
Town up right on the Red River. It hadn't rained there in so long, they don't even know what rain looks like. Terrible drought going on. Their lakes are down to the point where they don't really have much water left. They're taking now their effluent, that water that goes down the drain, they are cleaning it to drinking standards, and then they are taking and going through one more cleaning and filtration process, and they're taking that water and they're putting it right back through your tap. So they're taking what we call toilet to tap. They have to. And you're going to see that more and more and more in big cities that are dependent solely on groundwater. College Station is likely to have one of those in y'all's time. Probably not mine, but in y'all's. We've got to find ways to reuse that water. That's a very important thing on conservation, so we're not just continually pulling water out of the aquifers and then using it one time and off it goes. So very good question. Good question. Any more?
Yes.
Yes, I can bet he'd add one more question. Go ahead.
Why is the river more filled than the lake?
Why is what?
The river more filled up than the lake.
Because that's the way the water model makes it happen. Just for demonstration purposes. It's just for demonstration purposes. That's the way it's built. Okay, anybody else? Guys, summer is coming rapidly. I hope y'all have a great summer.
You too.
Conserve some water this summer.
Good deal. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all's attention. Excellent questions. Thank y'all.
Thank you.